Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wake Up Missoula. I'm your host, Scott Ramp, here to usher you into October 10th, 2025. There's a lot of things going on this week and more. We're going to jump right in. Last Monday, we saw about 2 hours of City Council fun with finalizing funding for the Black Knight Security to enforce the anti-camping ordinance in Missoula. Monday also read a proclamation of the 250 years of the U.S. Navy for Navy Day. Thanks, boys, for the whole American thing, that is. One of the bigger changes coming to Missoula is the distance in residency for firefighters are allowed to live from the city of Missoula or any given fire station within a 60-mile limit. That's roughly about 45 minutes in Montana time. So Lonnie Rash, new fire chief, talks about some of those changing and some of the loopholes they want to close.
So our current ordinance is 45 minutes to city limits and has a lot of fire chief discretion. The proposed ordinance for you is 60 road miles, physical road miles, from a fire station or a fixed location as the city grows and the city boundaries change, measured by a defined matrix, a little less fire chief discretion, really none, and it was a consensus conversation with Local 271. So I think everybody is on board and understanding that. Really, it aligns us closer to the Missoula Police Department recently adopted ordinance of 60 miles. Allows our members an opportunity for more choice in their residency lifestyle, expands the recruitment target area for the future recruitment, and our callback expectations of longer duration incidents. So today, depending on where, if we have a callback, and a callback is specifically when we have crews that are out for a longer duration, we need staff to come back to staff those fire stations to maintain our minimum staffing. The folks that live within 30 minutes are the only ones that are called and given that opportunity to come back because it's an immediate need.
All right. So, they do definitely preference people who live closer to the fire stations, closing some of those laxer rules with clarity on how this ordinance reflects best practices. Many fire departments, rural and local, must follow a set amount of safety standards to put on them form a national policy. But worry not, 90% of all resident firefighters in the city of Missoula are within 15 minutes of their respective fire station in town, and about the outliers are roughly 7.5% that make up about 15 to 30 minute area. And then, of course, the rest of them, which are about 2.5%, are under the 45-minute, and no one currently beyond those times. So beyond that, this is pretty much cut and dry as they continue to final consideration next week. Jody Pilgrim, Parking Commission, talks about parking violations and just about some of the updates with the fining.
This legislative session, House Bill 38 passed, requiring a change to the fine structure for disabled parking violations. So those fines historically have been $100 a piece or each, no matter how many you received previously. The state has adjusted those fines to be between $150 and $500. And so what we're requesting today is approval of this updated ordinance language to reflect those fine changes. So what will happen now is the first violation will be $150. If you violate the disabled parking rules a second time, it's $250, and the third and subsequent violations will be $500.
All right. So those are roughly the new changes that they're doing for the disabled parking spots or handicap spot, among other parking violations, which are looking to double your typical fines from, tardiness upon paying your parking, but retains the first violation to waive the fee, which makes it easier on residents and visitors alike to be able to go downtown and park downtown without having to worry about going to the parking commission or sending it in via mail to pay for those fines. So last week I also spoke about Paisley Park, and the city continued the conversation in regards to annexing more properties near Missoula Airport via England Boulevard and George Elmer areas. There wasn't anything new to talk about except for the furthering of development in and around the fastest growing part of Missoula, which happens to be in Ward 2. So Dave DeGrandpre, Community Planning, talks about restrictions on those homes being built and looking forward to what kind of developments can be happening there.
In the upper right corner of the property, this line indicates, the hash line indicates Missoula Extended Approach and Departure Area for Missoula Airport. And the rules that the city has adopted for that area are really intended to lower the residential density. So a maximum of 4 dwelling units per acre is allowed within the EADA area. And this property proposes 2 dwelling units within that area. I'm sorry, 1 dwelling unit within that area in compliance with the rules in place.
You guys are talking
Oh,
about.
wait, hold on a second. Sorry about that. I thought that was a little bit longer. But regardless, he goes on to talk about the infrastructure to mitigate traffic coming and going as England is connected to Reserve Street by the way of Costco and many other box stores south of the Broadway overpass. Infrastructure is, in many ways, developers in the city work towards building towards annexation of properties, sewer, water, mains, all that kind of stuff. But of course, I won't bore you with further details as Missoula is growing. And during public comment, Kayla Tripp touched on the density hidden behind the proposed construction because, you know, most of the area has been developed like crazy.
You guys are talking about, like, you know, presenting this big, amazing development with a whole bunch of different types of housing available. Not going to happen, I promise. And all in phase 1 looks like all of those are going to be apartment complexes. So it seems like somebody's trying to maximize profit. Additionally, next year, the parking requirements per person or per dwelling has been removed. Missoula will no longer require parking per a certain amount of units. And so that builder from Spokane, who probably has no interest in Missoula, will be able to do whatever he wants with parking. And we know when somebody has alley parking, they're parking on the road, and we run into that situation where 2 cars can't even pass each other because there's lanes parked on both sides. Also want to point out that a triplex in the current, very similarly designed place here was $475,000 for 1 unit. In order for somebody to pay for that, 1 unit of that duplex, they would have to make, you know, $125,000 to $145,000 a year to support that. If they have, you know, 5% down, best case scenario, right? Low interest rates. Average Missoula wage is what, $50,000 to $60,000 a year? They're not getting these houses. They don't benefit from them.
Yeah. So, you know, she's right. This is not houses that are going to be developed for affordability. This is a zone in which developers are getting permitting and permission to essentially build their properties in this area. It's a darn shame for Missoulians and more are the demand for housing that can make it seem like its corners are being cut. I mean, this is an issue with any community that is booming beyond the published vacancy means, which I mean that our vacancy levels are so low that we can't really negotiate for lower prices and stuff like that. And I can't speak for Missoulian struggles to find affordable housing. And while these sites are mostly to address the shortfalls in housing and bolstering supply, which seems to be on mark for what the city's going for, there still isn't signs of demand slowing down regardless of some of the housing becoming cheaper, but not by much. So the city voted in favor of this annexation, which allows for more zoning regulations, but those can only go so far as private development is favored more by state law because of property rights. So that's the school, like it's like, you know, it's like 2 scenarios of thought, you know, just trying to figure out exactly what is and what is allowed versus what we want. And unfortunately, most of the people, what we want is the affordable housing is in the city of Missoula, which is just not the case for the concept of when you have fair market rate, but, you know, it's not really fair for most of the COLA, which is cost of living wages, so, or cost of living adjustments. So, you know, just think about it like that. So most people don't sell houses to cost of living adjustments. Most sell it to market rate, and the market is unfair. So yeah, Mike Nugent, City Council, responds to the City Council's power and lack thereof.
We're talking about these subdivisions, the apartments could generally happen anywhere that platted land and zoning allows for it, with or without council approval. So I think that's just an important clarification for what quote unquote council's putting in. And of course, council doesn't bring forward most projects. The public commenter referencing accomplishments, we don't need to get into all that, but I do want to speak up because the Rivara project is creating 45 plus, at least 45 permanently affordable home ownership opportunities in a community land trust. And I'm proud that the city of Missoula is a partner to that. And I think that's a great use of MRA funds. The other project that was referenced was the Villaggio Apartments, where if the MRA hadn't basically put in the retaining wall against the interstate, that project would not be housing 600 plus Missoulians in permanently affordable deed restricted housing. And so when we talk about housing as a community and the great challenges, and I recognize that costs are going up, we aren't going to solve it by not trying to find creative solutions with those partners. And a lot of the things we're hearing in campaign season are around housing. And I think we need to stop and recognize that there is good work being done around housing.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, even hearkening back to more of that concept of fair market rate and stuff like that, even developers are slaves to the market rates that they are and the supplies for building concepts and stuff like that. My sister has a lot of land in Missoula that she's thinking about developing, but the supplies for the construction and contractors, all that stuff is just too expensive at this time, and is very weary about even building on her lot. So that's just one of those many things. But as we move on to committee meetings, you know, the one thing that they really want to discuss is the concept of how they wanted to bring back the old model of public comment section. So they have an early part of the meeting devoted to public comment with a cap about 20 minutes. So they want to have that opportunity for public comment, but they also want to have a recess of that public comment. So instead of having 2 full public comment sections, they're basically having a 20-minute limit on the beginning parts of public comment and then shoving the rest of it back to the back end of public comment, all within the guise of just having 1 public comment. Make sense? Of course not. Sandra Versica, City Council, talks public comment in terms of people who speak at the very beginning of the meeting who wish to speak at the tail end of the meeting, hence double dipping, which is why they're changing this rule. So it's weird. So here's Sandra Versica, City Council.
We were appointing a bunch of new firefighters. The mayor had the discretion to move that agenda item to higher up because they all came in, and that was favoring them above all the other business. So I guess if, like with the old post hospital, we assumed that there was going to be a lot of comment about that. With the pride flag, there was going to be a lot of comment about that. So I guess, yeah, it would essentially do that. But in the rules that I'm proposing, there would have to be sufficient public notice. So it would have to be published on the agenda Friday beforehand, saying, hey, we have a really hot topic item. This agenda, or the first public comment period, is being moved to after that hot ticket item, or just being moved to the regular general comments, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Kind of. Anyways, as we go further into the meeting, it's just 2 halves of the same public comment period with a break through consent agenda and other items and other office items. You know, it's a way for early birds to say their piece and peace out, rather than waiting until the end of the meeting to give their general public comment hearing. So in a lot of ways, this is a way for the city to be lazier, but at the same time trying to address a lot of people's concerns about having public comment at the very beginning of the meeting. But as somebody who's watched City Council and the efficiency of it, I've noticed that when they start public comment right there, a lot of times public comment has a tendency to monopolize and snowball into just like more of that, and then there's really not much kind of getting done. And then by the time the City Council can address some of those concerns, which is usually during comments from the council and the mayor, that's why they kind of booked them all together, public comment and then comments from the city staff, so they can actually address some of those concerns from the public comment, because it's not an ad hoc meeting where there's a lot of back and forth. It's very much like you make your statement for the record. That's it. There's no back and forth, and that's one of the things that the city wants to do just for the sake of efficiency, just because, when you learn through all the years of all this back and forth, and I've done meetings where there's back and forth and those meetings last too long and people don't get to the point. That's kind of like the biggest thing. It's like people never get to the point, kind of like what I'm doing right now. See what I mean? All right, moving on. As we talk further about this, we actually have public comment reacts to this particular proposal.
And the public comment time is the time when anybody in the city can come in and say what they want. And that is so valuable. It's not just the agenda items that are valuable. And I didn't even lead with what I intended to lead with. I'm so excited about this. I've already written everyone in the council about it. Only Eric was kind enough to respond. Thank you. I know you're all busy. But thank you, Sandy. And my main point is I don't believe 20 minutes is enough. I know that you guys can do, what is it, addendums or something? I hope someone will raise the point of, let's give some more time. 40.
All right. So yeah, he wanted them to add some more time to like essentially the header of public comments. You know, that's Chris Kennedy, city resident. He had a lot of suggestions and wanted to create a space that emphasizes public comments and more of a ad hoc town hall meeting rather than the way the meetings have been done so far. But as we go back, Amber Sherrill, City Council, reflects on the changes because timing.
Sometimes that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I'm going to be supporting this mainly because Sandy, and she and I went back and forth about this a bit, appreciate that again, Sandy, but mainly because we got that piece in there that said if we notice it when the agenda comes out, if we notice it, the presiding officer can either skip that or move it to the end or shorten it or just kind of, I can't remember the exact wording, but I'm comfortable with whatever it was. Because then if we do have a big public hearing and we know that we have a lot of people here for it and we will likely have a lot of people commenting on it, if it's a subdivision, whatever it might be, those people get to go first because they should.
All right. Is everything. As more of the city members moved to support this resolution, you know, most of this had to do with public comment, basically kind of highlighting those demands for more transparency, abilities to say their piece at the very beginning of the meeting. That was just kind of the things that was changed when Andrea Davis as mayor took over, just the way that they kind of restructured the meeting as a whole to get rid of all the business and administrative stuff in the beginning and then open up for public comment towards the end. But that kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Constituents constantly would berate the city council over the last year or so and just talk about like, we want more public comment in the beginning, this is not fair, blah, blah, blah. And that was kind of like the whole idea of this. This is actually kind of like the democracy in its truest form, listening to more people. That's just kind of how it is. And as we go further into community meetings, we're going to public safety and health. They're looking to improve data collection in response to emergencies from the fire management records as a tool related to image trend records management system, or RMS, is recommended as the unified solution. It will integrate all reporting into one centralized database, improve efficiency with tablet capable on-screen reporting. So when they go help somebody who is going through an issue, they can provide accurate real-time data for informed decision making. So essentially ensure compliance with federal standards. So Lonnie Rash, Fire Chief, speaks on this computer update.
Yes. Missoula Fire Department currently operates over 4 separate platforms or systems. So the first system that we operate is called Tyler New World, which is our fire incident reporting. That's where we collect all of the data required for our responses. So that's one platform. Our EMS platform is literally today's triplicate. So we provide handwritten triplicate documentation that we may give off to the ambulance or other providers and then come back and folks go into, from that system, into New World and complete data in there once they get back to the station. Our pre-plan program, which honestly is not a very robust program right now, and pre-planning is where we go into businesses, we determine where in the location there might be particular target hazards, there might be particular vulnerable populations, there might be where do we locate or find the fire hydrants, what important information, what hazardous materials are really critical component of our response. And that is in Fire Maps, which Field Maps, which is a completely different platform. And then our fire inspection reports, our inspectors go out and generally do mostly handwritten inspection. They come back, have that data entered by one of our data entry folks into the city program Acela. And there's really no one place that we have data.
Yeah, so they want to have one-stop shop for everything that they need for a lot of their different services. Most of these kind of updates in the department tend to follow trends and national standards since it involves a wide-reaching national fire services. Current software either would be outdated or more costly for a transition. While FEMA supports this particular RMS software through FEMA and sponsors and Image Trend. So that was an easy bid for the fire department to move forward with this. And Lonnie also goes into the benefits of having this new software as a whole.
Our firefighters can start completing records as they get back on the engine, and our captains, as well as when we talk about EMS specifically, the information that comes to us from the dispatch center is automatically downloaded into the tablet. And then we can actually have drop boxes when we're dealing with patients. So if there's blood pressures, whatever information in drop down, and then we can electronically transmit that to the ambulance or to the hospital without violating HIPAA. It provides continuity of patient care versus giving them a third sheet, ripping it off, and them having to re-enter data. So we do.
So there's a lot of great softwares, a lot of things happening, and just modernizing some of the software and stuff like that is kind of standard practice for most departments. And I know the city of Missoula is also looking to update some of their IT departments all in general. So firefighters are essentially the first responders and have medical vehicles like ambulances to give care to folks in need. And part of the software is essentially create medical profiles to give the proper care in real time. Although this isn't cheap, $72,000 up front compared to the $59,000 related to the old system, but the new system would long-term would effectively turn out to be $39,000 annually. Not to mention this program has FEMA approval for grants to offset costs. So they hope to get things done by a certain amount of time, by actually January 1st. So in climate conservation and parks, they dove into the West Pine Park on the north side near Scott Street development. It was a very short meeting, so I'll just give you the byline. And so this is part of their Parks and Rec 2040 Parks and Trail plan to be able to provide parks for everyone within a 10-minute walk anywhere in the city of Missoula. Well, that's all good and well. The cost of this particular project on the north side Scott Street Park is $4.2 million capital improvement project slated for construction in 2026 through 2027. However, most of the money raised from the sale of White Pine Park helped get this going. So White Pine Park was one of the parks that was in the general area where they're building all that new development on Scott Street. So there's a lot of land swapping, land exchanges, developers leveraging of different kinds of things to get this thing going so they can have a park essentially right in front of the Villaggio affordable housing apartments and that new development that's being this Scott Street Rivara project that's currently going on right now. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and they're implementing a park. There's just all these pieces that are coming together within the city of Missoula. And speaking of pieces coming together, it seems like the Wednesday open house was well attended. So if you guys got to check it out, it was the SAM project, which focused on the safety and improvements of the downtown infrastructure in terms of transportation, corridor, Higgins, front and Main Street conversion. So they're going to convert it into two-way at some point, and they hope to get things started by essentially a year from now. So next year, next fall of 2026. So I made a short package for you guys, and when I come back, we're going to talk about some movies that are coming out this weekend. But for further ado, here is both Aaron Wilson and Megan Meekin with the city engineering project planning for the downtown project.
Yeah, so the SAM project is actually 4 projects combined into one. We've got the Higgins Avenue multimodal improvements, so improvements, a conversion from 4 lanes down to 3 lanes from Brooks to Broadway. Front Main conversion from one-way streets back to their historic two-way street configuration with added bicycle facilities and street amenities. The Riverfront Trail and Connections project will widen the Riverfront Trail and improve the gateway connections at Ryman Street, Hattie Street, and at Kiwanis.
As the construction on Bear Tracks Bridge was happening, it made us think, well, we were making this great improvement in the middle of Higgins, but you still have these areas on either side, including the hip strip where the lanes were really narrow, the parking lanes are narrow, no bike lanes, there are safety issues there, and the bridge wasn't addressing any of that. And so we wanted to do a study of how do you connect both sides of the bridge. You've got this great new investment, let's make it connect across the Higgins corridor.
And then to kind of tie all of this together is the signal optimization project. So we will be retiming approximately 23 signals within the downtown area. So we do have specific requirements that we have told FHWA that we would complete with this project, and one of those is converting Front Main from the one-way streets to the two-way streets. The other requirement we have is for Higgins Avenue to convert from the current four-lane configuration to go down to 3 lanes. So those are things that are baked into the grant that we do have to do, but we have some flexibility in some other areas.
You know, concepts on Higgins and Front Main came out of master planning that started in the early 2000s. So there was a master plan adopted, I think it was in 2008. We did a ton of work implementing that, did another update in 2018, I believe it was. And that master plan identified both Higgins and Front Main as critical investments in downtown, both for people driving, people walking, taking the bus, biking. And so it just made sense to put these two together.
Yeah, so right now we have this 30% level of detail for this project, which really just shows the framework that we're going to be starting to add detail to. This grant coming out for us to apply for, there was a lot of criteria within that grant that we felt these projects fit into very well, so we added the Higgins project to that, the two-way conversion for Front Main into that, the riverfront trails, and then to tie it all together, we added the signal improvement phase also.
Luckily, we're not making significant impacts. We're not putting in a new bridge. We're not impacting the river significantly, and so that environmental review can be much more efficient. But we need to get through that. We need to get sign-offs on the project and the design with the state DOT, because we are making improvements to their routes, like the new signal at Madison and Front. That's a state route. We need to have Montana Department of Transportation bought in on that. And so we need to get through all that, but luckily we have developed a really good working relationship here in Missoula between the city, the state, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. We all work really well together, and we have a long history of that.
We're hoping to start construction as early as fall of 26, so about this time next year. We would love to be in construction. It could be spring of 27, depending how things shake out. But yeah, we've got a couple years of construction to complete everything, but we don't know how yet we're going to be phasing the project, so more to come on that as this design develops.
And you can find out more information by going on to engagemissoula.com. All right, so let's talk about some movies that are coming out this weekend. Kicking things off is, of course, the new movie that's coming out this weekend is Tron Ares. Yes, the God of War is back, and no, it's the old kind of like cyberpunk Disney movie from the 80s, rebooted in the 2010s, and now rebooted once again in 2025, starred Jared Leto in his role of a lifetime. It's essentially the people of Tron into the real world in this gimmick of a movie that blends digital and analog worlds in a fight that will decide the fate of both. So I imagine Ares, played by the not culty Jared Leto, as the Jesus of programs, as he is sent to fight for humanity and learn that maybe humanity isn't worth saving since he's just a weapon and weapons destroy. But then again, we might have his independence tested against both sides as they fight with colorful lasers and other CGI-heavy set pieces. Then we got Roof Man. You got a guy who is on the run from the police, stays inside a Toys R Us in a means to lay low until the heat dies down. Being a criminal means that he cannot help himself until he finds a good woman who is struggling with financial, personal, and insert trauma here, only through the love of a criminal who best meets her psychological profile, embarks on a cat and mouse tale about your fake life sounding better than your real one. Watch as worlds collide and this criminal learns to care through positive reinforcement rather than throwing him in jail. In many ways, Toys R Us is just as much of a jail for Channing Tatum than any serving time directly. Then we got If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Welcome to yet another Oscar bait of a movie with Rose Byrne, as she does this indie circuit to try to bring focus to a lady who is fed up with all this garbage and kind of crashes and burns. Essentially, she's raising a mentally challenged kid, absent husband and family. The therapist is there only to help with her mental state, but not the reality of her situation based on financial real-life problems. Who would have thunk? All right, then we got Kiss of the Spider Woman. This is a speed round as we're going to jump right through there. Sorry, Marvel fans, this has nothing to do about a Marvel musical, but this is more about a musical about a femme fatale trying to sing her way out of her situation in a jail cell. Yes, this is one of those weird movies where there are a bunch of political prisoners in jail and they become delusional and start thinking themselves are inside a musical. So yeah, enjoy that. Soul on Fire from Soul Surfer Cinematic Universe comes a down on their luck kid who is fighting for their life after suffering a major burn incident and learns through the power of faith and Jesus, all that kind of stuff. These are one of the kind of those inspiration movies where, you know, things really bad happen, but through faith, love, and community, they're able to come together. So yeah, it's a great Christian movie for those of you wondering. Deathstalker, not He-Man, swing his sword and fight Power Ranger type monsters in Conan the Barbarian ripoff type film. This remake of a movie you'll probably never heard of is called Deathstalker. And that's pretty much it for that. But we're not going to get into it. I'd rather move on to dubbin stuff. And here is a new dubbin stuff from the 1954 movie Naked Alibi.
I just don't see why everyone's complaining about this whole newspaper thing. It's ridiculous.
Let's start over. Geez, put some clothes on that alibi. Let's jump right into some news items. As we know, if you get a chance, the Montana Free Press has them highlighting the pitfalls on reservation when it comes to housing, and more importantly, housing development on reservation lands as they pertain to the tribal policies and laws as it works with and at times against the U.S. government in providing adequate dwelling units on their lands. So some interesting stories there. I highly recommend you guys check that out at montanafreepress.com. Wednesday, the city of Missoula asked for feedback from residents of Missoula downtown improvement courtesy of the $24 million grant. This is in relation to the SAM project, where it looks to improve safety and flow of traffic for Main and Front Street conversions to the Hip Strip, improvements for bike lanes, left turn lanes, and reductions to overall lanes in the area, and slowly become more like Higgins north of Broadway in the Hip Strip areas. So this grant was awarded in 2023 with certain criteria that requires a change to Front and Main Street. So part of that big transformational project was to improve safety and having what's considered double threats, which is two lanes going in one direction, is considered a double threat for a reason, and so modern engineer standards have changed, and so part of this is to fix those streets for safety. They also, you also got to give props because we're about the some more news items in relation to bear spray. So the bear spray founder, Carrie Hunt, who upon graduating created the deterrent in the 1980s, so we're about 40 years later. News Service reported this milestone, which started about $500 grant and plenty of inspiration from skunks. After trial and error, they were able to create a product that not only deters bears, but enables humans and bears to coexist without bears needing to be put down. The story is pretty good, and it brings all the heavy hitters from bear experts to Vietnam War veterans to weigh in its development. And so you guys can read that story on Missoula Current with some sprinkles of Agent Orange and a Master of Thesis for Carrie. This is something that really changed how we interact with bears in general, besides those weirdos videos coming out of Russia where they have a weird domesticated bear population. So as we get into some national news, Palisades fire suspect charged for starting the fire last January resulted in roughly anywhere between $95 and $164 billion in losses. The 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderkitch was charged Wednesday in Florida after his arrest on Tuesday this week. It turned out that he posted a video of him setting off a firework in that general area where the smoldering began, and he returned to the site as well to check it out. But so far, this is an ongoing investigation, as federal officials say that Jonathan, who lived in the area, started a small fire in New Year's Day that smoldered underground before reigniting nearly a week later and roaring through the Pacific Palisades, home to many Los Angeles rich and famous. However, many of the legacy homes that people have had a long history in California also lost their homes, with families living there as long as 100 years. So this report came out of AP News, which also mentioned that the fire left 12 dead in the hillside neighborhoods across Palisades, and Malibu was one of two blazes that broke out on January 7th, killing more than 30 people in all and destroying over 17,000 homes and buildings while burning for days in Los Angeles County. Of course, mind you that when the fire really broke out, the winds were too severe for planes to fly, so they couldn't snuff out the fire at the very beginning, so that really escalated the fire at that time. So of course, as we'll find out more on October 17th, when bail is set and whether or not he'll be transported back to California, which will be decided at that time. Crazy times, and social media was a big part of catching the suspect. And, you know, speaking of social media, this week saw Turning Points, the very popular conservative platform in Bozeman, the social media platform that grew since Kirk was 18, building up his debating chops on campuses, debating some of those college kids. After weeks of uncertainty, the college tour with Charlie Kirk picked back up without Kirk, who was murdered last month. Among the heavy hitters included Montana Governor Greg Gianforte and Ohio gubernatorial candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, former presidential candidate, took the stage Tuesday night. According to the Daily Montana, over 3,000 people attended the meeting and was equal parts a conservative sermon and equal parts rock concert to celebrate the reinforced conservative values. Gianforte's theme was more or less about getting off of social media and touching grass. In his 15-minute speech, he remarks being one of the first people to support Turning Points as a donor. Montana Free Press also did a story about Gianforte and his multi-million-dollar donation fund that supported many of these types of movements in the past. While the movement is trying to get back into the swing of things, the IRS offices are closed, causing some concerns in those looking to get some tax breaks and tax incentives, because it works for a lot of people who are of a certain age who are on a fixed income. So the Internal Revenue Services began furloughing employees on Wednesday, according to national news outlets, sparking chaos and confusion among employees and taxpayers. This local IRS station off Palmer Street here in Missoula was among those impacted by federal government shutdowns. Martin Kidson reports from the Missoula Currents that the IRS reported furloughed nearly half of its staff on Wednesday, an extended shutdown that could cause larger problems in the coming days, with October 15th filing extension deadline looming as well. I don't know about you, but I never actually went to the Palmer office of the IRS for my taxes and the dreaded online resources many people choose to avoid may be the solution in these times. However, program shutdown and timeline could all change. The government might be turned on again after today. Who knows? Like, you know, there's a peace deal in Gaza and Israel right now. That's, who knows if they're going to violate it. Who knows what's going to happen? That's the thing. It's like you can't really report on these kind of things without knowing for sure what the motivation, what the forward momentum is moving forward with this. But with these shutdowns are yet another things affecting travel. And while traffic controllers are working through without their paychecks, delays are still here. You know, I even Googled flights to like Vegas and some of the more popular sites that Missoula likes to fly out of, and I got deferred to November dates. However, while things have been working for Fed unpaid until they opened up Congress, many have been calling in sick within the traffic controller community, further getting the further they get away from their paycheck. So, but when you have leadership saying that they would not honor back pay, which also required under the old law, the shots were fired and many have opted out altogether. Well, when you have 15 to 20,000 flights in the air at any given time, you run the risk of impacting those economic benefits of tourism business and other business that are reliant on flights for mail and packages. It's been a rough 8 days, and today some places pay every 2 weeks, but in these times, no paychecks for work begins to wear down on federal workers who have to be in those positions and try to fill in a lot of the gaps that are left behind, because there is always a mandatory requirement for federal employees to work in these kind of high-profile facilities. So this is definitely going to affect a lot of people, and that's some of the things that are happening as well. But I also wanted to change the subject and throw it over some of the new programs that are going to be airing on MCAT. Here are MEGs, or Media Assistance Grants programs. We have a lot of different guest speakers, a lot of different things that we record here within the community of Missoula. And if you're interested in having MCAT record your nonprofit organization, cause, rally, whatever you call it, you can request a recording at mcat.org, or you can ponder some more questions by emailing us mcat@mcat.org or calling us 542-6228, otherwise known as 542-MCAT.
Curious, a couple times in your talk, just to paraphrase, you kind of mentioned how people are kind of zombified by technology and just like very detached from the material world we're living in. And And I'm wondering if you think that has an impact on our ability to connect with and maintain
Well, we got to get the
compassion.
kids off the phones. Oh, they have got to
Absolutely.
do that. I got to sit down and talk about it.
Yeah.
I remember the first TVs. I'm old enough to remember the first TVs. This old lady's got to sit down. But TV was limited to 1 hour a day. Just doing junk on phones, Facebook, okay, that's the mild stuff. 1 hour a day. And these kids are going into some very bad places and very dark places online and ending up doing really, really super atrocious things. No, we got to get off the phones, get off of a lot of the online stuff. We got to get back to doing real things.
People having their support network as they traverse these processes, like getting substance use treatment, transitioning out of homelessness, all these different things that end up becoming crimes. And the tax burden alone that Americans are paying to house people who are innocent in these jails and remove them from their civil liberties is astounding, and it makes no sense, and it's much cheaper to have a bail fund and bail people out of jail. Although I have to say, it's not just, my job doesn't end just at bailing people out of jail. I also have robust contact information from them.
The market is really cool. I really appreciate that the winter market also makes these available. These are the snap and double snap posters that you as vendors post at your booth. And we really like to see these because that's really the only way that a customer is going to know that you're accepting those tokens. So it is really important to have these posters. If you don't have one, talk to your market managers, the staff. You can also talk to us, and we'll see what we can do to equip you with some posters and some materials. What else do I have for double snap? What did I miss, Pam? Pam's good at catching little details. Change. So for both snap tokens and double snap tokens, they cannot be exchanged for cash. You cannot make any cash change to the customer for either denominations, for snap or double snap. So if they just have the tokens, if you're able to work to round up and add in an extra item or work with that customer so that you both feel good with the amount that they have and what you're selling, just make sure that you're not providing any cash change for these tokens.
And I think it's really interesting to see that in a kind of way that I really hadn't thought about it. Okay. The phishing thing I think is really interesting because if we back up to 2001 and the fish kill, that's essentially what sets this off. Is that commercial fishers are also banned from fishing. And when they can't fish, they lose their livelihoods, right? They lose their livelihoods, the indigenous peoples have lost their connection to their culture, and so now everybody's on board. Now there's a uniting force, and so I'm interested in what this kind of idea of fishing means in different ways to different people, but there's gotta be fish to fish. And there's got to be a river to fish from, right? And so those kind of interconnections, and I think, of course, that discourse can probably be disputed and thought about in a lot of different ways, okay? But I think that there's definitely something there.
Hey guys, welcome back. Let's talk about some events that are happening this weekend. It's going to be a pretty thick weekend. Kicking things off is a free Parkinson's conference at the University of Montana starting this morning. It's going on through this morning and tomorrow as well. It's a free event open to the public. This is the, let's see here, let's see. So this is a free event for people living with Parkinson's, their families and care partners, featuring a movement disorder specialist, practical workshops, communication tools, and resources from the Northwest Parkinson Foundation. So this was happening right now and this weekend. Stroller Strides Mommy and Me Workout Class is a daily occurrence that happens Monday through Friday at Bonner Park at 9:30 a.m. Empower Place at open hours to the Missoula Food Bank starting at 10 a.m. for people who want to get access to some of the play area and the extra features they have at the Missoula Food Bank while they're going to get their food. Family indoor fun. So if you're, as it's getting colder outside, if you're looking to get some indoor fun, Missoula Gymnastics, Sports Barn, Roots Acre Sports Center, and Get Air are great indoor activity spaces outside of the YMCA for folks who want to get active, but also stay warm and inside. Tiny Tales is happening in Missoula Public Library. It's a great reading activity for a lot of people in town trying to get their kids engaged with reading. It happens every Friday at 10:30 a.m. and Saturdays are story time at 10:30. Lunch at the Missoula Senior Center every day, Monday through Friday at 11:30 a.m. Poverello Center has it daily. They don't miss a meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and it happens at the Poverello Center every single day. Yarns and Watercolor, Missoula Public Library, 12 noon. This is a big event that happens every Friday on the 4th floor of the Missoula Public Library. It's a great place to be if you want to create. Grizz Career Closet Donation Drive. This is going on all month long, and so you can donate your clothing. So this is a closet donation drive. So they're looking for some professional clothes for people who are going on and to go to an interview essentially. And so they're looking for professional clothing. So you can drop off your clothes at Aber Hall, Brantley Hall, DHC Lobby, Eck Hall, Journalism Main Lobby, Mansfield Library, Missoula College, Payne Family Native American Center, Skaggs Building, University Center, ASUM office on the first floor. And also we have an All Abilities Art Club that happens every Friday at 1 p.m. At Base, Continuing Oil, Creating Depth and Focus at Lifelong Learning Center. This is one of their many classes where they're going to teach all sorts of things in terms of essential oils. This just happens to be one of many things that they teach there for certification classes and all sorts of fun things and continuing education, including GED programs. D&D Guild for Adults at 6 p.m. tonight. It's a great way to pick up some Dungeons and Dragons and some gaming, and it's online through the Missoula Public Library. Live music at at 10 Spoon Winery. The Blue Moon Duo is going to be performing tonight at 6 p.m. The 10 Spoon. Motet at the Wilma is playing some rock music at 7 p.m. Head Start is be showing outdoor cinema. The Goonies is starting at 7 p.m. Karaoke at the Jack Saloon at 7 p.m. Country Swing class at Showtime Academy, 7 p.m. Jazz Off the Rails, Leaf and Quiet. Brian Day, experimental music at Office Temple. Cranky Sam is featuring Dan Dubake. Some steel guitar, some fun music there. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is at MCT this weekend, and it will run until the 19th of October. And of course, if you know Quasimodo, you should know the play. Hunchback of Notre Dame, MCT, all weekend long. 7:30 p.m. shows with matinees at 2 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays, and an early Sunday show at 6:30. I only know that because I did MCT a couple years ago, and hopefully they keep that schedule. Night Blooming Jasmine, the Old Post at 8 p.m., playing some jazz music. Animal Treats and Friends playing some electronic music at Monk's. Mudside Charlie at Union Club to wrap up your Friday night as we jump into your Saturday markets and such. Also, the Missoula Fire Department is doing their fundraiser, free pancake breakfast at 8:30 a.m. So that's happening there. Saturday markets and such will be starting to wrap up. We're getting closer and closer to the end at the end of October. So you want to check that out. That happens every Saturday from around 8 a.m. to about 1 p.m. Raven Crows and Magpies, Oh My, with John and Kathleen Marsluff. Montana Natural History Center starting at Saturday at 9 a.m. Corvids are a family of songbirds, including crows, ravens, magpies, nutcrackers, and jays. They have spent 4 decades studying corvids through the northern hemisphere and continue to do so in Yellowstone, where they are unraveling the connections between ravens, wolves, and people. And so this is going to be a talk over at the Montana Natural History Center starting at 9 a.m. You and your child, Halloween cupcake decoration at Lifelong Learning Center at 9:30 a.m. on Saturday. Line dancing at Missoula Senior Center at 10 a.m. on Saturday. Maker Space walking hours at 10 a.m. Storytime 10:30 a.m. 16th annual Pumpkin Festival at Turner Farms this weekend. Both Saturday and Sunday started at 12 noon. Mud Workshop here at the Missoula Public Library. Yesterday they had a woman-led car maintenance here in our parking lot just over there. But they're also doing at their mud demonstration site tomorrow at noon for a women-led car maintenance activity workshop. MCAT Saturday drop-ins every Saturday at 1 p.m. Saturday drop-ins are great for kids to explore animation and stop animation through MCAT in our technology, and edit and audio recordings and fun like that. Sorry, I'm just starting to cough again. So. Teen Open Studio, Missoula Art Museum hosted this most Saturdays at 1 p.m. You want to check out their schedule for more events like this. It's a great way for kids to get access to free painting supplies, and they also provide snacks. So this is every Saturday at 1 p.m. to encourage teenagers Artists of the Future. Northside's Fall Festival at Leaf and Quiet. This is on the north side. They're going to be hosted there, starting at 2 p.m. On Saturday. And then Makerspace Adrena for Everyone here at 3 p.m. This is about kind of like teaching how to program little machines to do functional tasks. Adreno, that's what it is. Fall Bingo at Corel at Camas Creek Farms. Volunteer Fire Department are teaming up with an evening of bingo, food trucks, and fun to raise funds for the local fire department. All proceeds go to the support of friends and neighbors at the fire department. Clay Studio of Missoula at 6 p.m. on Saturday is doing a family clay night, haunted houses at 6 p.m. on Saturday. Cinderella is going to be performed at Westside Theater at 7 p.m. Live music, John Floridas is going to be playing some folk music at Draftworks at 7. End of Shift is wrapping up this weekend at the Massacre Theater through the Theater and Dance. Argentine Tango Social Dance and Intro Lesson at the at the Elks Lodge at 8 p.m. Solid State Karaoke at the Bulldog Lounge at Westside Lanes. Tater Thought and Friends at Monks performing some music there at 9 p.m. on Saturday. Tomcats has got Union Club. Chris Moon and every Saturday at the Badlander at 10 p.m. And then Sunday, to wrap most of your weekend up, you can build your own herbal apothecary mini course at Green Path Herbal School starting at noon. Pumpkin painting at the Poverello, for the Poverello at Draftworks, mind you, at 12 noon at Draftworks. Fall, Sunday, beginning pottery at Clay Studio at 1 p.m. Salsa dance class at Rocky Mountain Ballet Theater at 1. Chronicles of Narnia are going to be being shown at the Montana View Bible Chapel at 2 p.m. Pinball tournament at Odd Pitch Brewing Company at 4 p.m. NFL bingo at Tamarack at 5 p.m. Moving Together, Exploring Movement and Healing, Missoula Aging Services at 5 p.m. on Sunday. Zootown Witch Walk. So this is a big thing. This has been kind of like, I want to say this has been going on for the last couple of years, but this Sunday at 6 p.m. Higgins at the Red X's to the Hip Strip and back downtown. Witches Wanted, so put on your best witch attire and walk with the witches for the Zootown Witch Walk of 2025. Second Sunday Swing with Ed Norton Big Band performing at the ZAC. Very funny weekend comedy open mic at the VFW. And wrapping up is your karaoke at the Sunrise Saloon on Sunday, 8:30 p.m. So those are all your events here in the city of Missoula. You guys can enjoy that and more. You can always go to MissoulaEvents.net. You can go to EngageMissoula.com. You can go to ci.missoula.mt.us. And as always, you can go to MCAT.org to learn more about this program and more as we usher you into the weekend. So thanks for joining me and for Wake Up Missoula. I'm Scott Rev. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend.